Morning, everybody. So look, obviously, fell short of the goals that we set out to accomplish this year, and it stung. You know, won't allow it to discredit all the positives that we were able to accomplish as well this season. Franchise record of wins, and another division title, and being undefeated on the road, being undefeated in the division, and look, call it what it is, a historically tight division race this year. So, and look, that's the whole organization had a hand in that, and I can't thank the players enough for all their sacrifice and strain and commitment and their response through the adverse moments that arose. Uh, Thought Dan did a phenomenal job having the team prepared. Look, 15 wins, that's hard to do in a year where you don't have all the attrition that we had to deal with to get 15. But on top of all the attrition that we had to deal with to get, I mean, that's about as difficult as it gets. So, that was a heck of a job by him and the whole staff, the whole coaching staff. We saw a lot of players make jumps and get better and continue to improve. So was happy for those guys. And look, our fans, look, they still, once again, they showed up and did their part, and they pulled their end of the bargain. Wish we could have done more for them. I'll never forget, we were down in Houston, and a close friend of mine that I went to college with, that was his first away game that he had attended. And he couldn't stop talking about what our fan base, how they showed up and basically invaded Houston. And he was just in awe. And I was just telling him, like, look, and that was just the only away game that he had ever seen. But just they take so much pride in it. Again, just wish that we could have done more for them. But hey, look, it happened. It happened, and you can't sulk it back. You can't mope a reversal of the unfortunate outcome. So there's literally nothing else to do but pick yourself up and get back to work. There is nothing else to do. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we will do. And the process already started. So questions.
Brad, how far do you think this football team is away from winning a Super Bowl, and what steps need to be taken to kind of take a step forward in 2025?
Yeah, I just think that we just stay the course and just keep building like we've been. I do think that we're very close. Obviously, I thought we were very close this year, but there's nothing's going to kind of alter what our approach has been in terms of trying to continue to improve and keep building. But obviously, I do think we're very close. Obviously, felt really good about this season, but fell short. But we're going to stay committed and stay committed to the process.
There's no urge to fight overreacting when you have the disappointing end that you have.
Like, what do you mean overreacting?
I mean, do you feel an increased urgency, I guess, to make changes or approach things differently what's the weight of 15 wins versus the early exit play?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it sucks. It's humbling, but no overreaction. Honestly, what I was talking about there's nothing else to do but get back to work. You guys have heard me talk about trying to battle recency bias, and not being a prisoner of the moment. And look, we just fell short, and it wasn't our day. But no, I don't think you can be a prisoner of the moment and just kind of make all these crazy wholesale changes. Now, look, we'll assess and evolve like we always do every year, and we'll work to improve. But literally, there is nothing else to do but get back to work, and that's what we've been saying from day one. Is it's all about the work, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Brad, where does the same topic just, does it push you closer to like an F and picks approach? Like thinking we're this close, maybe we need one thing to get us over the hump. Is there any, I don't know, how do you weigh that sort of, approach to the offseason?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Look, it's probably relative to what you would say. Is there a window, or is there a window that you need to stay in? And Oh, I think that we've done a good job doing our best we can to avoid windows, and I understand that contracts come up and contracts come up, and stuff happens, but we feel so good about our young core and young nucleus of players, and we feel really good about our quarterback and how he's playing, and him having a, let's call it, an MVP caliber season this year. So I just think that all the pieces are in place, that I don't really feel walls closing in or a window, and again, we kind of make an effort to avoid those kind of things.
Brad, where do you think you guys need to get better? Is it pass rush? Is it offensive line? Some of those guys are getting older.
I mean, look, yeah, when you're down 5 defensive ends due to injury, then I don't know who has a 6th, 7th, and 8th effective pass rusher. So when you get down that low, then yes, you could say. But when we were at full health, I thought our pass rush was pretty good. I thought the whole defense. I mean, I think it was self-explanatory in terms of the numbers of what we were able to produce before that attrition happened. But obviously, we'll always look at all areas, and we'll always add competition at all areas. Look, you guys have seen us do it before. We drafted an inside linebacker in the first round when we had a pretty damn good linebacker room at the time. We double down that we don't really go into it with that mindset. We just try to just add the best players that we think is fit, add the best competition. Obviously, free agency will be upon us quickly. That's when you kind of can do the fun stuff of the depth chart and filling in holes on the depth chart. But after that, we'll just kind of just find the best players.
Are you going all in now are you going all in now to a point where maybe you would take chances that you wouldn't take normally, like adding a veteran instead of draft picks at that point? Is the place where you're at now at that point where you might make that sacrifice but you normally wouldn't if you're trying to build, but you're at that point now, maybe I'll add that one veteran and give up picks for later or give up young players to get something that will put me over that last hump?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we've done that in the past where we've added some veteran players, whether it's free agency or, we had to trade for a veteran pass rusher and expend draft capital for that player. So we're not scared of that. It has to be the right player. So you can't look at it in kind of a transactional mindset and say, well, we got to get this veteran player and get rid of, well, if it's the right veteran player that can help us and it's the right fit, then we have no problem doing it if it's going to help our football team. But we've always said we're going to build through the draft, and I think that's why we're in the position that we're in from a quote-unquote window standpoint of having the comfort to keep building like we have been.
How did it feel from your perspective as far as, curating this team, getting all the pieces, adding the veteran pieces, the free agency, the draft, all this stuff, and then all the injuries, especially on defense, did it feel like the Jenga tower and someone just knocked it over after you spent so much time putting that thing together?
I never looked at that analogy. That's a pretty good one. But no, look, I want to make sure I answer this because it's a lot of ways I can answer this. I've always told y'all as we approach this time with player acquisition, when we're signing guys for free agency or drafting guys, I've always been very upfront with y'all about it's the names on the depth chart when we're not playing football. It's going to change, unfortunately. I've told you guys, look, we're looking at this thing, what's going to look like November and December, and that's why me and Dan are so heavily concentrated on depth, even though when sometimes it's like, man, why didn't you sign, that most expensive free agent? Well, we're trying to cure depth because this kind of stuff happens. So we've kind of stuck true to that, but because I've always thought about that, when the injuries happen, I guess I'm mentally prepared for them a lot better. Now, you don't know to what extent it is, but really from a negative emotion standpoint, I just feel bad for the players, really. I feel like the players put so much into it, and a lot of times it's bad luck. When you look at some of these injuries of how they happen, it's like they were some of them just bizarre. So, I hate it for the players because they put way too much into it to get the rash of bad luck. But in terms of how we roll, look, it almost, I say from a positive standpoint or positive emotion, it actually kind of fuels me, and it fueled our personnel department as the attrition piled up to like, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? It happened. Just like I said, that divisional loss happened. What are you going to do? The injuries happen. You can't pout them back to health. Again, you hate it for the players, but what are you going to do about it? And I do think our personnel department did a really good job in terms of responding and doing what they had to do, and a lot of credit just to the process. So we weren't scrambling, we weren't finding guys at the last minute. A lot of guys that we added were identified early on in the process, and guys that we thought was going to fit, and they did. And also credit to the coaches, just getting those guys ready to play and contribute that quick. That's very hard to do. So, but yeah, I don't really. It sucks, yeah, but it happens.
Brad, how much of an obstacle, if at all, is it to rebuild your staff now with the coordinators and possible other coaches? I know you were prepared for it, but is it still a difficult thing to traverse?
I mean, yeah, obviously there's difficult because I have so much respect for the unknown that you can't, know exactly what's going to happen. Obviously, we were prepared to lose those guys. Those guys are great coaches, and I mean, just call it what it is. We're lucky to have both of them this year. But I know Dan has been preparing for it, and I have the full faith and trust in Dan to make sure that we're going to have the right people in place in those spots. But he's been able to, he's had to encounter that before, not at the coordinator level, but other position coaches, and it's always worked out. So it'll be good.
You talk about culture fits with players. What are some of the pillars that you look for in a coordinator?
Oh, well, I think he's going to have to be adaptable. He's going to have to be smart. He's going to have to be able to adjust, make sure that he's putting the players in the best position to succeed. And so those are some of the characteristics I think is a good culture fit for a coach here. I think that our identity kind of shows. So most coaches that choose to take a position here, same as a player, I think that they know what they're about to walk into in terms of how we play and what our standards are.
Okay, Brad's departure impacts Jared, and how confident are you that he can continue, ascending like he's played the last couple of years?
Say that one more time.
How do you think Ben's departure
Yeah.
impacts Jared, and how confident are you with ascending no matter what happens?
Yeah, I feel very confident in that, just because that's the other thing with coordinators leaving, and if there's tweaks to scheme and all that. As long as Dan's the head coach here, and as long as I'm here, then those are things that we talk about that are not going to change. So it may be a scheme tweak here or there, but if a player's going to come in here, he's a Detroit line or he's not. Same as that question about of a coach coming in here. So I think Jared in particular, that's something I know it's at the forefront of Dan's mind in terms of what's going to be the best thing for him. So I got faith that everything will be okay.
Just going back to
He's not a product of Ben in that system.
No, I can't say that. Obviously, he was very productive with Ben, as a coordinator, but he had a lot of prior success before he even got here as well, in a completely different system. And I think he's a better quarterback, a more mature quarterback now than he was then when he had early success. So I don't foresee that again. I think the guy's in his prime. He's gotten better and better every year. And when I say prime, I think like just entering it. It's because he keeps ascending. I think like every single year we've been here, it's the next year has been, man, he's playing that, and the levels keep improving. So again, I just have a lot of faith in Dan, and I know that he'll make sure that Jared's gonna be in a good position.
What kind of challenge is it to keep the assistants you want to keep when they will have opportunities, I would imagine, with the Jets and the Bears?
It's obviously a challenge because you always, you want to keep the good ones, obviously, and guys that, you've gotten comfortable with and proved that they fit here. But it's just the nature of this business, and it's something that, you just have to expect. You got to prepare for it. That's going to come. That's part of the job. You know, and it's not only in coaching; it's in personnel as well. So I've always said it's hard to keep the good ones, but you know, but I understand that when guys want to poach guys from our program, you just got to be prepared for it.
Dan said he wants to keep philosophical continuity with his staff as much as possible.
Yep.
Do you have to kind of wait to see how that all sorts out because of your collaborative process with how you shape personnel as well? I mean, do you want to give those guys the pieces?
No, it probably goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier about me and Dan are aligned. That's a great thing about me and Dan are so aligned in what the vision is of a player coming in here on this team. So, look, I've been in a lot of different regimes and under a lot of different coordinators, and I've probably heard every linebacker term. You know, there's a Mike and a Buck and a Mac and you either a linebacker for Detroit Lions or not. Like we don't alter that from a personnel standpoint. He's a linebacker. We're scouting a linebacker for the Detroit Lions. We're not looking for a Mac for somebody's, you know, it's just so, and I think that's a great thing about me and Dan, and that's the foundation, that's the standard. We play a certain way, and I think that's been a vivid display for the past few years about what type of player we want. So I understand the question. I do understand the question because I get it, man. New coordinator comes in, it's like, well, I got to have this kind of guy and I have this kind of guy, you know. And look, we scout everybody, we look at everybody, but there are certain core intangibles that I don't care what the arm length is of a specific player. If he doesn't play like how we need him to play, then it doesn't fit.
Brad, you mentioned the attrition. Just curious, how are you a better GM for having dealt with that this season?
That's a good question. So this was the first year, especially the attrition at one spot. I mean, obviously linebacker we got hit in training camp at linebacker, and then it trickled into the season. But pass rusher, and this is the first time we've had to trade for a pass rusher this year, and I will say that was the most difficult player acquisition journey that I've ever dealt with. You know, look, you can talk about, you can look at all these names of all these starting defensive ends in the NFL, but when you start doing the work and you start making the calls, that thing shrinks down. From availability standpoint, that thing shrinks down like this. And a lot of the guys, look, we have an early trade deadline. So you start calling these other teams and these other GMs, and they might have 4 rushers. And so forget the starters. Those guys aren't even available. Like, we're talking about 3rd and 4th. And, you know, yes, and I can't really disagree with them where they say, look, we got 2+ months of football left, and I trade you one, and then we get another one hurt, and we only got 2. And I was like, I didn't really expect you to be rational and think about it that way, but it's true. So, you know, there wasn't. So when we got Zadarius, he was one of a small handful of guys that were actually available to actually get that, you know, we felt was going to compete and contribute at a starter level. So that one was, I think that one, just going through that experience, I could say just sharpened me up a little bit. And after the Thanksgiving Day game, I know multiple people in our personnel department, including myself, never experienced poaching 3 players on a practice squad in one day. That's because, you know, when you're committed to that player for 3 weeks, and there's a process to poach a player from a practice squad, but never done that. You poach one guy, and then okay, that's your one poach, and that might be your one poach for weeks and weeks and weeks. But to do 3 in one day, that was that was a unique experience. But again, when that happened, we were very motivated. Like it wasn't a sour. So all these guys that had to go on IR that morning, and all the guys were just excited. They're motivated. They're encouraged to go in that process, and we were able to identify guys that were able to come in and contribute. Yeah, feel good about both of them. You saw it early on. It's funny. Both of them I thought were in completely different places when OTA started, and Mahogany kind of started the OTAs like, man, he looks like it's not too big for him. Just stepped right in and kind of knew what to do. Where Manu was complete opposite. He's like, man, like I've never had this kind of lingo that I had to remember, and snap cadence and all that stuff. But in credit to our coaches, actually, when Christian had to take the time off being on NFI, when we returned him, me and Darren were kind of like, he's a rookie. He's missed this much time. The medical staff and the trainers knew like he was in good shape physically, but we were like, if he can help, he can help. If he can't, you know how we are with rookies. And he was like, he jumped right in. You could see it noticeably in practice where it's like, okay, wow, we got to get this guy active. Well, wow. And so I think he just has to continue improving, continue to work on his game. I know that he will do that, but I do think that he can make that jump. And then Gio was the same way. If you watch the film of Gio in OTAs and you watch the film of Gio in practice, I mean, it literally is night and day. And so that's credit to, Hank and Steve Oliver and all those guys just working with them, and a credit to him because he was conscious just to making sure that he's improved. So so excited about both those guys' future for sure.
With Harry and Arnold, last week, snaps this year as a rookie, just curious how you felt in his development from that week one to, I mean, he was a starter nearly every guy.
Yeah. No, kind of similar where we knew that it wasn't going to be too big for him. Psychologically, he's a highly confident kid, and had some up and down moments early on. Had some aggressive moments, which was a good thing. Didn't have any timid moments, but I think all those snaps that he played is going to serve him well going forward. And then you just saw like the waters were a little choppy early, and then you saw the waters kind of calm down, kind of midpoint to later in the season. So very high expectations for him going forward. Again, we all know how he's wired. He's wired the right way. He's long. He's athletic. He's got instincts. He's tough. He'll tackle. And so all those reps are going to improve his confidence even more. Yeah, I mean, I thought Zeitler did a good job this year. It's different when you're changing completely different schemes, and kind of early on, he had to get used to how we were doing things. But once he got adjusted into that, I thought he did a really good job. A player of that age, you just got to have conversations with him. We had conversations on exit day, and then we'll just continue to have dialogue and just kind of see where it goes. Yeah, I thought we got good. I thought we got very good play from him. I will be honest. I thought that he played better this year than he did the year before. That last year in Tampa, and he'll tell you that too. But I thought we got what we wanted to get. Obviously, unfortunate that we had to lose him and be without, but we're aware of not only just Carlton, Zeitler, but we're aware of a lot of other guys that are either on expiring contracts, that had good contributions to our team this year, or guys that are worthy for an extension or in consideration for extension. So no intense action yet, but we're very aware of it, and we'll go through our normal process, and we have updates. We'll make sure you guys know. Yeah, we're working through all of that. Again, it's We might have our plans and processes, but it takes two people to get something done. So that's not a negative comment. It's just that you just don't know what that player in the camp and all that kind of stuff is thinking. So we haven't gotten to those intense dialogues yet, so that's going to be the only thing. But we have our philosophy, we have our process, but we'll just see how it goes.
Sort of, Brad, staying with the offensive line for a bit, obviously it's the key to your offense, maybe outside of Jared.
Yeah.
What's the priority going into free agency and the draft of making sure that the group stays where it's been the last few years?
The whole thing, that whole unit. It's not a specific position. It's not it's got to be a future left tackle, or it's a starting guard, or someone to develop behind. I think when you start going in those kind of specific avenues, and you can kind of ignore something else, and I just think you got to keep the whole garden watered at all points. And so it's going to be the whole unit, because just like you said, I mean, that's the engine for us. And so I don't care how good we ever get on the offensive line. That one right there is too important for not only our team, our quarterback, everything. It's our identity, man. So I think just that alone is just it's always gonna be